next year will be 70. And I am just so grateful of the example that my parents set for we children, my siblings. The other day, there was found my father's journal, which was so interesting to me. They were going to the academy in Mexico, in Juarez, and that's where they met. And Grandpa fell for her in a mighty big hurry. And when they were dating, Grandpa got what they called then a letter B. Does anyone know what that is?
Called a box letter?
Box B.
Mission call.
Yes, it was a mission call. Well, all Dad could think of was, hey, I want to marry this girl. I don't want to go away for 3 years. That's what it was then. And he was called to go into Mexico and just walk, go door to door, a tent to tent.
By himself?
Yeah, he was very much by himself a lot of the time. And but he had such a good job. He was working for a construction man, and he said, Jim, you'd be foolish to accept that and go on a mission. If you stay here, I'll make you the senior journeyman or whatever they called him, and you'll make big money. And Mother said to him, but Jim, that's a call from the Lord to go on a mission. We can do it. We can get married. I'll teach school, and you go on a mission, and I'll do fine. And so Dad agreed that that's what he should do. It was a call from the Lord. So they were married, and I think it was 3 weeks later, he left. He did have a horse he started out with, and Mother walked as long as she could behind him just to say goodbye. And in that, Dad wrote in there, he said, I reached a point where I just couldn't turn around and look at her. He called her my pal. That was his, in their letters and everything, he always signed it your pal or my pal. And he said, I just couldn't look at her. It just melded me, so I just decided I had to look straight ahead and do what I'm here to do. And so he said he did that. He just didn't look back anymore. And Mother then went back to their house, and which I don't think it was much, but she was able to teach school, and I don't know how she got the money to him or any help to him, but for somehow they managed. And Dad would always say to we children, you know, when I came back, Pancho Villa had come through. I don't know if you know who he is, but he was, you call him a marauder?
Marauder?
What?
Marauder.
I think you call
Or
him a terrorist.
bandito.
He was a rebel.
Bandito is right.
Revolutionary.
Yeah, and he came through, and he they were just scared to death of him. Well, this was after Dad came back. And so he and about 8 other young men decided they could fight him off. And so they went up in the mountains where they could look down in the valley and guard their cattle and their gardens and their home. And, but he said one of our group came running in and said, there's no way we can fight him off. Pancho Villa's coming through and he's got 100 men with him. And so all they could do, the saddest thing about that, I remember Dad told about his little brother Edward, who had a dog that meant so much to him, but they knew they had to get rid of the dog or he would let the
Rat 'em out, yeah.
guys know where they were hiding. And so he'd start barking, you know, and it would give them up. So they had to shoot him, and that really did just break Ed's heart. But they then went down, and here they are watching all their hard work just be ripped apart, and they're taking the best of their cattle and the best of their horses and everything and just taking it off. And you can imagine how that would just break your heart. And so they finally made their way out of Mexico, and that's when Mom went to Tucson because her mother and father had gone there. And she and Lviv, who was 9 months old, were the last ones on the train. And it wasn't even a train, it was a boxcar that had been knocked off to the side of the track, and the men picked it up and connected it to the train. And so Mom sat on a box, literally, with this 9 months old baby, all the way to El Paso, Texas. But at least she got out of there. But Dad said to we children, he said, I want to tell you something that you must never forget. Because I went on my mission. When I came back, all of my friends, who a lot of them were LDS, the majority, they had lost their jobs, lost their home, lost everything. But Dad would say there was one thing they could not take from me, and that's my testimony of Jesus Christ. They could not take that away from me. I had gained by serving the Lord, and He wanted us to understand that that's what's so important, is that we serve the Lord and we keep the commandments, and we will be blessed. And at that time, when I was real young, and he would tell us these stories, and he said, a lot of those men that I knew were not active in the church. They'd fallen away, a lot of them, because they didn't accept their call and go. So I'm so grateful to parents and grandparents that were so converted to the gospel that they would do anything and everything to teach us the truth so that we would all be together eventually.
What year was that, Mom?
For Dad and Mom, well, Dad was born in 1883, and Mother was born in 1886. So that would make them,
That's a long time ago.
yeah, they were in their 20s. But let me tell you something else about that. Uncle Harold was called to be the temple president in Mexico City, and it was the first Latin temple to be built. And they invited us to come down to the dedication of that temple. And so my sister being the matron, my brother-in-law being the president of the temple, we were all able to sit in the celestial room. And President Hinckley was in charge because President Benson wasn't doing very well. Neither one of them, their health. And Aunt Leonora had made a bed in her office for them anytime they wanted to lie down, but they were there. But anyway, President Hinckley, when he started, he said, I want to tell you, this is a most joyous occasion to be here. The very first Latin temple to be built. And I want you to know that Lehi is here, Nephi is here. And he named the prophets of the early days. And then he said, and my father, and the early missionaries of Mexico are here with us. Well, we all broke down in tears because we knew Dad was one of those first in Mexico. So that was a great experience for us to be there and to have the President Hinckley tell us that these prophets were there recognizing the first temple. Can you imagine how happy they were to finally have a temple? It was just a wonderful occasion. So I've had many experiences like that has made my testimony strong, that it will never break. In fact, I was promised in my blessing that I never would be
Deceived.
deceived is the word. Of the
Tempted above your.
or the truth. I would never become confused or mixed up. I would always have a testimony. And that really made me feel good that I would be able to stay strong. It was a great blessing. So I know that when we meet like this, that I just have the feeling that our grandparents are watching and seeing. It means, you mean so much to them. You are their posterity, and they're counting on you because you belong to them. You also belong to our Savior. He paid a mighty, mighty debt for you. So you belong to Him as well, and He's also, that's not very rooting for you, it's not the really good word, but He is counting on us to be strong and faithful and to, by our example, bring others into the church. So I have a testimony of the truthfulness of the gospel, and I'm so grateful for each one of you that are staying strong and be an example to others. And I say that in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.